In 3, 2, 1, go ahead, sir.
Morning, welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners check-in. Thursday, April 8th, 2021 is 10:03 a.m. My name is Ty Menser, Chair of the Board. We have Vice Chair Commissioner Gary Edwards and Commissioner Carolina Mejia, as well as our County Manager, Mario Chavez. This morning, we have an hour and a half slated. The public can follow along on our Thurston County YouTube channel or through a conference line we have. For those without internet access, it's 302-252-9020, and the PIN is 1234. We have a variety of miscellaneous topics, some held over from Tuesday morning's agenda setting. And I guess we'll just dive right in. The first topic.
Yeah, thank you.
First topic is biennial annual budget.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. This is a briefing that was presented to you on March 31st. And it was related to the annual versus biannual budget. It's not presented to you, 3 different options, and provided information related to the annual budget, biennial budget, which is the 2 one-year budgets, and that's what we have been practicing in the past, and also provided to you with the option of the true biennial budget. Also provided information related to what the risks are associated with the quote-unquote true biennial budget, and that is when an appropriation that is given on a 2-year basis. And I don't want to go through the risk assessment that was presented to you unless you have specific questions related to that, but it's not presented to you with 4 major risks associated with that particular option. On the annual budget, this is what the annual budget that we have right now. And so no really additional information related to that unless you have any particular questions. And the option of biennial budget, the 2-year budgets, that's what we have been practicing prior to this year, where the board decided to go with an annual budget. So at this point, I will ask the board if you have any particular questions related to this proposal, and I will ask the board to provide direction as how I'd like to proceed for the upcoming year. And again, the staff's recommendation on the briefing was for you to consider going with the biennial budget. That will be the 2-year budgets. It was not suggested for you to go with the true biennial budgets because that has some risks associated with that approach. So at this point, I will stop on that. Attached in your packet is the PowerPoint presentation that was provided to you on March 31st, and go from there.
Commissioner Mejia, any comments or questions?
I do not have any comments or questions at this time.
Commissioner Edwards?
The only initial comment I would have is I'm not interested in the true biennial budget. I didn't know if we needed to clarify that at this point in time.
That's all within your options, Commissioner, and the options presented to you was annual budget, biennial budget, and the quote-unquote true biennial budget. The staff's recommendation was not to go with the true biennial budget, but certainly you have the option to go with the annual, biennial, or the true biennial budget. So I just want to clarify what the options before you.
Okay, well, I'll agree with staff then on that part of the recommendation that we not go with the true biennial budget. I do have a question, though. On page 7 of the material that we went over, I think it was on the 31st, make the process fair. On that second bullet down, publish and communicate the rules. What are the requirements, I guess, that everyone follow the rules? Are rules state law, or are they just our internal rules that we have a preference that we would hope they would guide by?
It's a combination of that, Commissioner. Some of the rules are applicable related to specific dates as to when we need to prepare the budgets. But also, there's a combination as to how the rules, what I call the rules of engagement, the Board of County Commissioners would like to establish. And I believe that is important just to make sure that all the offices and departments understand what those are. So everybody follows the same rules and expectations.
Okay, good enough. And are you wanting comments at this point about our preference? I guess that would be my next question.
Yes, at some point, but I think Commissioner Menson is exercising a dialogue here before I may ask the board how I'd like to proceed.
Okay, so I'll wait until Commissioner Menser.
I'm ready to give my 2 cents, so go ahead and give your 2 cents, and then we'll double back to Commissioner Mejia.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, okay. Because we're still in what I call not a very good situation, I guess. I'm going to still favor the annual budget for this time around. I know there were several reasons that made sense that we might want to go to the biannual. I know one of them even had to do with off-year election planning and such, which I see merit in. But at this point in time, I just see so much uncertainty out there. And now I see, I don't know, even the morning news this morning, new variant, kids are getting the variant, getting sick. And I don't know. I think we're just in a dilemma yet. And so I want to keep it as simple as I possibly can and as flexible as I possibly can. So I'm going to opt for the annual budget. Yeah. Okay. That's kind of it with my very small spiel.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to opt for the biennial. I think we can build the flexibility into the midterm adjustment. Maybe be more flexible than we might have been based on all the considerations that Commissioner Edwards pointed out, which are very valid. But I think that the accounting practices recommendation and the staggering it off of the election cycle is really smart. And it seemed to be the preference of the majority of the offices and departments. So that's where I'm at. Go to Commissioner Mejia.
Yeah, this was something I, just coming in as a new person, something I debated quite a lot. But right now I'm leaning towards the biannual budget just because we need to start stabilizing where we're going to be. And I feel I'm really leaning towards that option on option 2 on page 5, which it's, allows offices and departments to request a rollover. I feel like just adding these flexibilities for the elected officials and department directors would be good, just because there is still a level of uncertainty. But one of the comments that I heard is, which I thought was very interesting from some offices, was that they would like to have a consistency. And so I think a biannual budget is the way to go. I think it offers more of a financial stability long term. And so that's where I'm at this time.
And I do support, I don't know if it matters, I do also support Robin's suggestion about having the flexible rollover option request item that Commissioner Mejia referred to.
Right. So just to conclude this conversation, if I may, what I'm hearing is the majority of the board would like to go ahead with the biennial budget, not to be confused with the true biennial budget. And we will bring some additional information as to how you can exercise your authority, as to how you like to do the midterm adjustment. And that's what I believe is you can provide additional flexibility, as Commissioner Menser, Commissioner Mejia stated. So we move forward with the biennial budget at this point, and then we'll come back to the board with additional information related to what are called the rules as an overall.
Okay, great, thank you. Let's go to item 2, which is the RV scattered site pilot project. And I do see Keely and Tom on our screen this morning. And Ramiro, maybe you can set up the issue for us.
Yeah, thank you, commissioners. And this is the a little go back to last year, and it was probably in the late summer, early fall timeframe, where the city of Olympia really reached out to the county in terms of seeking help to manage with the RV parking that is still currently located on the Ensign Road in the vicinity of the Providence St. Peter Hospital. In response to the sense of urgency, the city of Olympia stated staff brought an financial option for the board to support, and the board supported about $530,000 in so many different funding sources to support the effort to address the RV parking on Ensign Road. You have to recognize the vote was a majority of the vote at that time. Moving forward with that direction, staff started working with the city of Olympia, and at that time, there was the option of utilizing the property the city of Olympia owns on the intersection of Carpenter Road and Martin Way. When the staff from the county, staff from the city of Olympia start working on the details as to how that property can be utilized, it became extremely cumbersome and perhaps cost prohibitive at that time, based on the current resources that we had. So staff started looking for a different way as to how we can probably address the existing and current need of the RV parking on Ensign Road. So they embark on this process of what we call a scattered site management. And this is a pilot project the staff is suggesting at this point to see for a 1 year if this approach is viable and feasible to address the current need, because something needs to be done at least, and that's just my comment. So this proposal was presented to the Regional Housing Council by Tom Keeley, who have been diligently working on the details of that. The Regional Housing Council has endorsed this particular proposal, and this has come to you for your, in a way, approval, because we need to have your legislative authority to help us go through securing the services that we need through our request for proposals or any contractual needs that we have to implement this pilot project. This option was presented to you maybe 2 weeks ago. I believe at that time the board wanted to have some more time, either to have a conversation with Tom and Keely on a one-on-one basis. I believe that has occurred. And also I believe Commissioner Mensah wanted to have a field visit. Also, I believe that has occurred. So at this point, staff is here to answer any questions or maybe add additional information related to the background that I just presented to you. And again, at this point, I will ask the board to provide direction related to this pilot project. Did I miss anything? Tom, Keely?
The one thing I would add is also 2 weeks ago, you asked that we solicit public comment. So we have posted the pilot program up to the county website. We have received one comment from Providence, and I know there was a question from Commissioner Mensah around Providence's thoughts on this. And so Providence did respond. And so just to read a couple lines from their email was, their bottom line is, we encourage the county commissioners to support the funding of the scattered site management pilot project as proposed by the city of Olympia. They also indicates our expectation that the scattered site plan will aid in keeping the streets clear of debris and keep the surrounding area clear so emergency vehicles can safely resume their routes along Ensign Road. So they did indicate that the scattered site would be an improvement. They have concerns, but overall they were supportive of the project. So I wanted to provide that information as well.
Thank you, Tom. Commissioner Mejia, anything for Anyone, or comments, whatever?
No comments at this time. No questions. Comments, but no questions at this time.
Not hearing you very well, but I did hear you say no questions this time. Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, I guess, I don't know if this is for Tom or Keely, but did we end up with any type of mandated treatment for mental health issues or substance abuse type of thing in the proposal?
No, I'll answer that. No, Commissioner Edwards, we did not. As we've mentioned before in various meetings, the funds that come through the county, whether they be federal or they be state dollars or local dollars, come with a requirement that our services be operated from a harm reduction and housing first basis. So that denotes that there is not a requirement for any individual that engages in services to do anything, that they are able to access the services without any restriction. So if anyone comes and wants a referral, they can have it. If they need and they want referral to services for substance use or for mental health or behavioral health, they will have it, and they will have access to those services, but they will not be required.
Okay, maybe just a quick follow-up on that. Would those individuals have the option, maybe mandated by a judge, if they were required to appear in front of a judge because of a violation of one type or another? Do we have that in place where instead of jail, they could get treatment, for an example? I don't know that they send them to jail, but I'm looking somehow to get treatment into this process for both mental health issues and substance abuse. So where can you fit something in there that might be there that I didn't see?
Well, I think that there's a couple things complicating that. One of those, of course, being the Blake decision that happened very recently, that is kind of disrupting the ways in which drug courts are operating right now, as far as I understand. I'm by no means an expert on that topic, but I do know that that has caused some stir with regards to smaller charges of possession and drug courts and access to those services through that channel. So I'll just leave that there. I just know that that's impacting that function of treatment and the court system. And we will not be able to require individuals to engage in any type of service. However, they will be able to access those services through the site managers, intensive case managers that would be assigned to each location. So the intensive case managers would be working very closely one-on-one with each member of the encampment, and as per best practice, will be meeting them as the vernacular where they are at, and ensuring that they get referrals and access to the services that they need.
Okay, then maybe just one final follow-up. Yesterday, there was quite a cleanup along the lake, and I'm wondering, I think that, I don't know the hourly rate that people were paid that were employees that were working there, but did we have an opportunity to employ any of those homeless folks in the cleanup of their own area? Hopefully trying to give them a little self-esteem or spending money or something. Did we make any headway on that type of an activity?
Well, I would not be able to answer that question directly because it was a City of Olympia action. My understanding is that they did engage the folks living, the residents of that encampment, in preemptive cleanup before the professional cleaning company came in. So I know that they were engaged in the cleanup process. I do not believe they were paid for that service. And again, I would defer to the City of Olympia to answer that more thoroughly.
Okay. I did happen to see a drone video of the cleanup cleanup site as it was getting started. It didn't look like there had been much accomplished, if anything. So I'm going to take that as probably nobody from the homeless camp participated in their own cleanup. It looked like to me, because I didn't see anything that was cleaned up, but I guess I could be wrong on that topic. Okay, I think, how about maybe just for you and Tom, because you did give me the courtesy of a good conversation on this particular topic. I think we actually extended the time. It was pretty good. And I appreciate that. But one of my concerns were that that these sites be located where the services could be accessed by those individuals. And where are we at now on your scattered site? Anything different from when we talked about a week ago or something like that?
No, the proposal remains the same, and the 3 encampments, one being the 2 encampments and Ensign Road, remain the 3 areas that have been identified to start the pilot project. So those are the same as were listed on the documents that you were given. And they are, those 3 sites that we've identified as participating in the pilot are nearby services of all stripes: medical, mental health, behavioral health, substance use, outreach, housing, food, hygiene.
Okay, thank you. I think that'll do for me, Chair.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. I had a question on the financial piece. Just to, I guess I'll state what I think my understanding is, and then Tom, if I've got it wrong, just please correct me. So the commissioners allocated some money that was available last year. And therefore, I guess now we're in 2021, that money never got spent because we weren't able to pull together the safe parking site. So it seemed to me that where we were at was we sort of had this sort of, I'll just call it leftover money. That might not be the right way to call it, but this leftover resources from 2020 that we're then going to combine with a chunk from 2021, because these things tend to happen on an annual basis, to try to fund this pilot project. Is that an accurate characterization, or am I if I got it wrong about the money that was earmarked from 2020?
Yeah, I would say that the money that was earmarked is money that we have all that money we have a time frame to spend, and it's a fairly large time frame, so it was not required to be spent in 2020. So that money is still available. It continues to be available. It's a combination of community development block grant and emergency solutions grant, where there's a 3 to 5 year window that we have to spend those funds. There's also some emergency funds from the 2163 local document recording fee that we've held on to, that there's not an end date. So it is not funding that needed to be spent by the end of 2020. So those funds remain available. We're asking for the potential, because we don't know, we haven't gone out for bid yet. We're anticipating with the cleanup costs and the other site management support that we want to provide to Olympia, that the initial $530,000 may not be sufficient to cover a full year of operations. We were thinking it may be closer to kind of 6 to 8 months of a sufficient funding. So the additional 21 funding ask is really just to make sure we're able to fully fund the program if needed, if we need additional resources beyond the initial allocation or the identification of that 530,000. Some of it is mixing and matching the funding to the type of activity that can be funded. All of these funds have different requirements on what types of activities can be funded. So we're mixing and matching these funds a little bit to make sure we can cover all the different, both the sanitation, trash removal, hygiene costs, as well as the case management costs that we're looking to cover with these funds. Okay. So if that helps answer your question.
Yeah, it does. I mean, my bottom line point, I guess, for myself and the public is just to sort of illustrate that the majority of the money is something that is basically from a failed project idea from 2020 in a sense, and that money would need to be deployed on on something here within a given time frame. So
Correct.
it's a little bit less of a financial risk, or so to speak, or a financial reach when we're basically have this money from a failed effort to do a safe parking program. So that plays into my thinking, and I'm just laying that out there because I want the public to kind of understand how I'm looking at some of this. As far as the cleanup on Deschutes, and Commissioner Edwards brought that up, I was out there on Friday afternoon with the Olympia coordinator, and one end of the camp actually had been cleaned, and then the coordinator was working with all the residents. I mean, they had a self-interest in participating because they didn't want to lose their belongings. So they were working out a system by which they would, take the things that were important to them and tape them off with tape, and then sort of that would help the folks that were cleaning, the employees to identify what needed to be cleaned. So there was participation, but I don't know that it had a financial component to it. I guess the Providence input was very important to my consideration. And seeing Ensign Road, I hadn't actually walked through and met some of the folks there, and seeing exactly, and it was sort of funny because the exact problem that we were alerted to last year basically happened while I was there, which was somebody had parked in what somebody else perceived to be their spot. So a huge truck was basically blocking the road while they argued about this parking spot. And I could see how if there was an emergency at that moment, the ambulance would have trouble, or whatever, would have a lot of trouble getting through there. But the input that we got from the hospital was important because that was kind of one of the emphases of moving forward. And I also had a chance to talk to the property owner closest to the Deschutes camp from the new development area there by the park. And he was 100% supportive of this concept. I was curious what he thought, and he was aware of the sort of legal constraints about moving that camp, but definitely was supportive of local government's effort to keep things clean and organized, and getting folks connected up to things that they needed. So with all of that, I guess, and seeing, and this is a pilot that we can evaluate, and the lot program is going to help, I think, over at Ensign Road with the RVs. So I'm curious to see how this is all going to function, and so I'm a thumbs up on this at this point, and I'll go to Commissioner McGinn.
I mean, this is something that we spoke about at length with Tom and Keely, and I just, we're going to have to keep working on something long term, and that's something that the RHC is going to, definitely have to focus on is what do we do on a long term basis. But, if this is what's available right now, and I did appreciate the letter that we received from Providence, because that was one of my concerns. It's, how our emergency vehicles, going to get through the area, is it going to be an issue once again? So their support for it definitely kind of sealed the deal for me. So yeah, I'm giving it a thumbs up. And, I just think as we look towards the future, I think we definitely need to come up with more innovative solutions. And I know Keely and Tom, we've had many conversations about this, and the direction I would like to see us heading, but I know, there's always roadblocks in the way. So, but thank you too for all your work and for your time that you spent talking to me about this and educating me.
Chair.
Yeah, I was going to call on you, Commissioner. I can't see your thumb.
Okay. Well, here's just a couple of quick questions. Tom said fully fund, and I'm wondering how much that meant if we were to fully fund that request. Has there been a change in dollar amount or anything like that?
Thank you for that question and allow me to clarify. So fully fund, what the proposal is for the county to fully fund the case management component. And so we would hire a case manager, a consulting firm, a local provider to provide those case management services. So we would provide 100% of those costs. We'll need to go out and solicit application proposals for that. So we don't have a full estimate of that cost yet. We're, you know, it will probably likely be in the $300,000 to $400,000 range for the year. Is just a back of the envelope estimate. And so we're looking to get proposals for that. We would also provide partial funding to the city of Olympia to support the waste disposal, the hygiene, the other kind of site management service component. So that would be capped at a certain level. And then City of Olympia would be responsible for any costs above and beyond that amount. And so we would not be fully covering the costs for the site management, the garbage pickup, and those things. So that that cost is, you know, up to $20,000 for initial site cleanup, up to $50,000 per year for regular service, including garbage removal, hygiene, offsite storage, and septic services. And then up to $10,000 for a one-time emergency or urgent need to protect health and safety of residents. So those funds are capped, and City of Olympia would be responsible for any costs beyond that.
What was the the original dollar amount, Tom, that we set aside in 2020 that we're talking about here to totally our portion that we're going to kick in, I guess?
Yeah, it was $530,000.
Yeah, okay. How about what are other jurisdictions kicking in as far as financial assistance here? This is kind of a team concept, I guess, of solving a problem. What are the other jurisdictions doing?
So if other jurisdictions, so the pilot is such that if another location was identified in another jurisdiction, those other jurisdictions would have to contribute the same kind of amount as Olympia is currently contributing for this, so the same rules would apply. So other jurisdictions are not kicking in any of their, you know, general fund or other things, but as part of the Regional Housing Council, the 2163 local document recording fees are in a sense fees that come from residents throughout the county, and the Regional Housing Council has input on the direction of those. So I would, you know, depending on how you look at the document recording fees or the other CDBG and ESG funds, these are seen as regional funds that jurisdictions feel like they're making a contribution to.
Okay, I guess just to follow up on that then, basically what I'm hearing is even though they're not funding a specific dollar amount that, you know, we're doing $500,000, let's just put it there. But really that money is money we're holding possibly that really did belong to those other jurisdictions and was collected in those jurisdictions, and we're kind of holding the purse and divvying it out according to what the committee kind of wanted. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah, the county receives these funds, the document recording fees, anytime someone purchases a house or refinances a house and has to record documents with auditor, there's a fee. And so those are based on properties throughout the county. The county is the fiscal agent for those funds. However, as part of the Regional Housing Council, there's a representative from each of the jurisdiction who has a vote on a recommendation for how those funds are used. So they're really viewed as a regional fund source.
Okay. Is there any possibility of developing a holdback, say, you know, I don't know, 10% in case you ended up having some emergent situation that developed, so we would have a little tiny nest egg to help in that area? Do we have that in place, or is it part of it, or we're not going to spend it all? I mean, I'm just trying to make sure we just don't blanket give away and then we don't have anything else to work with.
Sure. I mean, partially we'll be soliciting applications, proposals from, you know, potential providers who are interested. So we'll certainly go with the lowest responsive bid that meets the needs of the program. We'll also, I guess I'd look to Ramiro as well for other things. We do have 2163 funds that the Regional Housing Council oversees and that the county oversees. So, any funds that are not spent are spent in other areas of our homeless crisis response system.
Okay, well, I think at this point, I'm going to give a thumbs up to try and play team ball here to see if we can't work towards a solution.
Okay.
Hey, Ramiro, you have 3 thumbs up.
Yep, thank you. Before I close this item, one comment and then a question for Tom. The comment that I'd like to provide is over the last recent years, we have received many comments from the community that we need to work on a regional approach to address some of the many issues associated with homelessness. The Regional Housing Council was one of the first elements that we implemented to have that regional perspective. And this is a tangible project that I believe the community has asked us to do, to collaborate with other jurisdictions as to how we can start addressing this issue. So I believe this is a well project that is never going to be enough, all the resources that we put in place. That I believe is an attempt to continue to address or start addressing the issue. Particularly in this case is the RV parking near the St. Peter's Hospital. So I appreciate the board's support. And if I can ask Tom to walk us through the next steps, what the board's going to be seeing in terms of approval when they see on their agenda items.
So the next step that I will bring before is submit an AIS for approval to issue an RFP to put out a request for proposals to solicit the contractor to provide the case management services. So that would be the next step. We will also be looking to amend, we have an existing interlocal agreement with the City of Olympia to provide hygiene services. We implemented this interlocal agreement last summer as part of COVID. And so we would look to amend that interlocal agreement to add these additional funds to expand the scope of those hygiene services to include the scattered site project to provide the waste removal and the hygiene services at these 3 locations. So those would be the 2 immediate next steps that we would bring forward to you. And then of course, once we have the applications and we're ready to kind of make a recommendation on what provider to go with, to contract with, we bring that to you for your approval before we sign any contracts.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair,
Yes.
are we about done with this topic?
I think so. Go ahead, though, if you have something.
Well, I just want to thank Tom and Keely for all their hard work. It's a tough job trying to balance everything out. So thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. So we're off to our 3rd topic of the day, getting a nice, good variety of topics today, from budget to homelessness to water resources inventory area, and permanent exempt wells, and our Deschutes watershed plan under the Stream Flow Restoration Act. And I see Josh Cummings here and Caitlin Nelson.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. This is a follow-up to a briefing that was provided to the board in early March related to, in this case, the Water 13, that's the Deschutes watershed. And through that conversation, you also receive some recommendations from the Squaxin Island tribe for you to consider adding language that will encourage the Department of Ecology to expand or change the rulemaking they have applicable to this watershed. You met with the representatives from the Squaxin Island tribe. They provided some recommended language. You approve that language, and it was given direction to staff to go ahead and go through that process of approval of that language. I believe that and Caitlin can elaborate on that process a little bit, but I believe that language has been accepted, was accepted by the Squaxin Island tribes, and I believe they were very appreciative for the board to consider the additional language And I believe that language has been accepted by ecology, if I may. So at this point, I believe the punchline of the story of this item today is for you considering approval of the plan itself, because this one has a specific deadline as to when that needs to be submitted to for ecology for final approval of the plan. So Josh Killing, and please, it's your turn.
Thank you, County Manager. That's a great overview, and I'll kick it over to Caleb for some more details. But before I do that, I just wanted to say thank you to the commissioners and leadership. This is a success in honoring the perspective of our Squaxin tribal government partners and the commitment of ecology and the legislature to fulfill the items related to the Hearst decision, so that the board is able to find a middle ground and a path forward is a big success. And I look forward to the direction from the board to potentially sign off on this come this April 20th, I believe. But I'll pass it over to Caitlin for any more details.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, so the language went to other planning unit members and they all reviewed it. Everybody is great with the language. And so the vote will be on April 20th. And then if everybody votes yes, we can submit the plan to ecology. And then once the Department of Ecology approves that plan, I will be bringing it back to you for an AIS. And I realize that this wasn't clear in the agenda. That's my fault. But if you are comfortable with it, I would also like you to consider the RIA 14 Kennedy Goldsboro plan. The last time we had spoken about that, there were no outstanding issues and no language recommendations. And it was a much simpler plan. But we can also reschedule that if you would prefer.
Okay, well, luckily I have 2 thumbs attached to my body that I can use. So I'm 2 thumbs up on these. Very excited to hear that the work we did on the RIA 13 plan was well received. And I'll go to Commissioner Mejia if she has questions, concerns, comments.
No, sir. I have, again, 2 thumbs up too for the 2 plans. And I'm excited too that the suggested Squaxin Island tribe language got accepted, so.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, sir. I'm in there with you.
Okay.
Chair, 2 thumbs up.
Excellent. Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you.
Good job, Killing. Good job, Josh.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so the next step is we'll see approval from the group and then submittal, and then we'll have to sign off ultimately on the plan.
Right, and then it will be a formal adoption by the board after ecology's plan. Yeah.
Okay, all right, very good. Thanks, Josh. Okay, that takes us to our sort of typical standing items for a commissioner's check-in. Item 4 on today's agenda. It's reports on external boards and commissions. For discussion items, I think we can kind of mush them together if we want. We've got plenty of time though, about 45 minutes left for any items. I'll start with Commissioner Mejia.
For the reports, are we melding?
Yeah, go ahead. Or if you don't have a committee report and you want to go with a commissioner item, it's up to you. We'll kind of just go around and around with one item each until we're done.
Okay, I guess I'll go on the reports because I do have a couple of things to report on.
Okay.
I met with Christine Nunn and Casey Duff from Senator Murray's and Senator Cantwell's office. We had a really good conversation, especially about the election infrastructure and county infrastructure and how we are just currently dealing with our space needs right now. And so one of the things they did mention, you know, just with elections are definitely a big topic right now, and any way they could support, just to let them know. We also discussed the Nisqually broadband project and trying to seek their support for that and seeing how they could help us. And they're going to reach out to Nisqually, the Nisqually tribe on that. I told them that Thurston County was very excited about the possibility of that project. On JASCOM, I had a meeting on Monday, and we have a goal to set a strategic plan on the retreat in June. welcome new staff, and then the Pet Point application that they've been working on should finally be up and running by May. So that's exciting. On Monday, I also did a presentation with the Rotary Club. So thank you to the Rotary Club from Olympia for the opportunity to speak at their meeting. On Monday, we also did a Thurston County Media Vaccine public service announcement in Spanish with Ramiro. And so that was interesting and definitely put my Spanish skills to the test. Thank you, Brian Dominique, for helping us in setting that up. And I'm excited to see the results. The intercity transit meeting was yesterday, and there was a really good presentation done in regards to Planning 101. And I know there was discussion afterwards on seeing if that information could be shared with just a public or in a setting where the public could see it more handedly, because it broke it down and just went into the details of how routes and buses and the schedules are planned. But next week, there's going to be a tour of the building that they're currently working on, and Congressman Strickland will be there, as well as the ITA board members. And I know I have the Regional Housing Council is also scheduled, the RFP process is scheduled for next week, so next Monday, so I'm going to see if I can be in 2 places at once. And that's what I have to report for external boards and commissions.
Thank you. Any questions for Commissioner Mejia? I don't think I do. Commissioner Edwards?
No, but I don't have any questions, but now in the Zoom environment, she can be 2 places at once now. So.
My wife also thinks I can be in 2 places at once. And
there you go. Hey, actually, I think as far as boards and commissions, I gave a pretty good update on Tuesday. The only thing new since Tuesday is I have met with Capcom, and the main topic there is actually just upgrading the system, and that's ongoing, so nothing really new to report there. And then the Fair Board, that was last night. And I think if I had to pick something that probably is something to be concerned about from the Board of County Commissioners is, are we going to have a fair this year or not? And that's kind of outside of our control, actually. I mean, I mentioned earlier in an earlier discussion, there's a lot of unknown going on. I don't think we have an answer for that, but we might have somebody from the fair come and give us just a little, I don't know, 10-minute at one of our meetings or something on how they see the potential and the dates involved. That kind of a drop dead date. That's probably the wrong term to use with COVID, but as to when we could make that decision, because there's a lot of other folks that are affected by this, whether it's groups or vendors or whatever. So that'll be it for my outside boards and commissions, I think. And then are we going to go into commissioner items, or what are we going to do?
I have a question for Commissioner Edwards.
Yeah.
In terms for the fair, has it been discussed? I mean, maybe downsizing, and I know the Washington State Fair just has their vendors come out, and then you can order food, I believe, online, and it's still helping out the small vendors. Have we thought about maybe doing something at a smaller scale here in Thurston?
No, actually, that didn't come up in discussion last night that I heard. But I'll certainly bring it up with somebody out at the fair and see if it's something they're looking at, because they are looking at a lot of options. from the fair revenue side, for sure, a lot of that has to do with whether or not groups can actually utilize the fair. So I'll bring that up and see if that fits somewhere. Good idea.
Yeah, because I'm also interested in the, I mean, obviously the thing that's probably least sensible is to have the carnival part. But what I worry about is the kids and the families that work so hard on their animals and those different parts of it. And it seems like, you know, we don't know exactly what this guidance from the state will be at that point, but it seems like given the other things that are going on in the community and our knowledge about safety protocols, it seems like something like that could be done safely. Maybe not every single part of it, but it'd be nice to do as many parts as was safe to do if it benefited the participants, you know. I have a question too, Commissioner. I'm going to be looking, I guess I have been invited out right after this meeting to go look at a proposed project or something at the fairgrounds. I'm really not sure what it's all about. I was wondering if you knew, if you could preview for me, or if you knew what this was about.
Yes, I've been out and took that tour. I think you're going out with CPED director Josh, right? Is that right?
I think
is that
so.
The one yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm really enthused by the proposal that I think they're going to present to you, which we've got a bunch of old stuff that isn't very practical as far as buildings. There's not a lot of usage. They were built for a specific purpose and not much else was thought out at that point in time. And that was probably when they were built, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 years ago. And so they're hoping that we might be able to do something on the upgrade. We had set aside about $250,000, I think, earmarked. I know one of the things is we're utilizing the fairgrounds for this pandemic and utilizing it for shots, for an example. And there we go right back to this unknown. We don't know what's coming. All these different variants of the virus. Are we going to have boosters every 6 months? Is it going to be an annual thing? There's just a lot of unknown yet. And I was thinking there was the possibility that we could have a multi-use building out there that would really provide utility for the unknown, if you will, and then to be able to generate revenue through all the different entities that may make use of it if we ever do get back to normal. So I think they're just going to show you around out there a little bit. And because we aren't allowed to talk about this in the hallway or anything, when I was trying to keep it quiet from you, it wasn't a fair board activity per se. I think some of the activity that they talked about was definitely ideas from the fair board, and that has to do with revenue. I would like to see that facility be able to stand on its own and produce revenue. And I think with the proposal that they're laying forward, it's really possible. So I think they're just trying to give you a brief overview of the proposal possibly.
Okay, very good. Thank you. As far as committees, I don't have much to report.
Commissioner,
yeah.
Related to the fair item, the fair board is going to come to the board in a briefing in early May, and that will be the source of the conversation is the Thurston County. The 2021, I think, is 150-year anniversary of the Thurston County Fair. And I don't know if, I think the next meeting is May 5th of the fair board, and I don't know if the briefing is going to be either before or after. I hope it's after they meet as a board so they can come back to the Board of County Commissioners with a briefing so we have the opportunity to weigh in on the specifics. So just to let you know.
Okay, great. Well, I hope that gives them time to pull something together if that's what they decide they want to do, and we feel that that's appropriate.
You know, I might say one other thing I didn't bring up is I put a plug in for some musical activities out there, and I know you're quite highly thought of in that regard. So you're on the radar.
All right, thanks. The only committee that I would report on to the board would be the mayor's forum. I previewed for the board last week. I think that the city of Lacey was advocating for us to consider what we could do with a chunk of our relief funds to create a big impact on building primitive supportive housing units. And I'll just say that that conversation did happen. Nothing was, there was interest in that. Nothing was decided, so to speak, or really made more specific than what I already told you. There was just sort of general acknowledgement by each jurisdiction that would make sense to sort of think about that and keep that in the back of our minds as we work through the allocation of these funds. Is there a way, and I think we would be looking, I think the mayor of Olympia was, and I was supporting her request to the Regional Housing Council basically to kind of lay out a plan, because I don't know what the scope of this coordinated effort would look like financially. I mean, maybe we could, retool our allocations a little bit to meet this need. I just don't know what exactly is on the table for how many units could be built over how many period of time. And so kind of the last time I met with the mayors, I brought up the idea of the sales tax, the 15, whatever it is, 1590. And the response I got back from the city of Lacey's mayor was, well, I'd like to see the plan. I'm potentially supportive, but I want to see the plan. And it was kind of the reverse. He was now saying, well, let's build a lot of permanent supportive housing. And I kind of threw the same thing back at him. I'm tentatively supportive, but what's the plan? And what is so everybody kind of agreed with that. And we're hoping the Regional Housing Council would take up the notion of, if there were resources made available by the jurisdictions from their federal relief funds, what could be done over what period of time, because we have the 2024, I think, spending limit, and some projects might take longer than that to realize. So anyway, that's about the gist of what was discussed about that. I want to circle back since I brought that up last week. And other issues that took up a big chunk of then we went around. Nothing too significant happening in South County. The mayors of Yelm and Bucota are not running for re-election, so we'll have new leadership there, it sounded like. And I did bring up the issue of our Disaster Recovery Council and letting the jurisdictions know that they would be seeing that proposal. And there wasn't much reaction or discussion. Everybody seemed interested and supportive. So hopefully that'll move forward along the lines that was presented to us by Kurt last week. So that's about it for me. Oh yeah, J.W. Foster did mention in Yelm, they're working on their big thing is their water rights. They only have they have less than 200 connections left from what is allocated for water rights, but they feel like they're on the precipice of Department of Ecology approving a plan for some more water rights to the city, and that would be able to foster more development for them within their urban area. So that's it for me, and I guess I'll go back to Commissioner Mejia for any commissioner items.
For commissioner items, I wanted to talk about the 3000 Pacific Avenue. I heard back yesterday from Treasurer Jeff Gedman and Auditor Mary Hall about the building. I know Assessor Stephen Drew will go and look at the building today. But just from the comments I heard, they were very positive. And so that was what my vote was contingent on. So got my vote up, I guess. Yeah. Thumbs up.
Okay. Well, that's for Ramiro, I guess, to interpret the board. I guess you have two positive votes for moving forward on that.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is we're moving forward on the next step. So you will, on the plan that I presented to you related to the space needs, So you will hear and you will get a lot of items for your consideration coming up. So we'll start working on the plan and move forward. Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner
Yes,
Item.
sir. I want to bring up something from this morning's agenda earlier. I didn't want to get into it at that point, I guess, but I'm curious, did my seatmates get this report? I don't know, it was going to be like 35 pages, it sounded like, to review at all. Did you have eyes on that prior to our meeting this morning?
I did. I know Sarah printed it out for me just sometime this week. I think she printed it off on Monday, so I got a chance to look at it beforehand.
Okay, good enough. I just missed it.
But it might have been in my calendar appointment attached, and I didn't look there, but I had not actually looked at it.
Yeah, and this isn't, I don't want to be critical. I just wondered, that was probably my fault for not, maybe I did the same thing you did, Chair, was I probably missed it myself because I was overloaded. I'm just wondering, on that list, the letter actually refers to, you know, like we reviewed a list. That's the only reason I asked it. And so I'll do my due diligence later on reviewing that. I don't think there's any issue. I just like to be able to say, yeah, I saw that. Yep,
Yeah.
we signed off on it, because I know it's way too complicated to really digest it and truly understand it. So just wondered. Okay, how about, do we have anything going on to, I guess what I want to comment on is we had a letter, an accolade for the health department, basically, on shots here recently from a community member, and they couldn't say enough good about the health department and how that was all handled. And I wish we could get that type of response from our community on everything we do. And maybe that's, maybe it's not possible. I suppose that's not realistic to get 100% response. But if we could get 60% or 70% of a positive response to our operation by the public. And so I just want to bring up that I still think the public is not getting the proper assistance when there are options. It seems like staff is, first of all, they're probably overworked, overloaded, but the answer always seems to be negative. And then when we spend time looking into it and try to come up with a fix, well, in fact, there was this way you could have went, and that would have solved the problem. And it seems like staff just, they're not enthused about taking that approach versus saying, well, no, you can't do it, and you'll just have to come up with a different plan. And they don't seem to want to give any assistance. Like, well, if you look under here, under code 2442 or whatever, I think there's a way that we can maybe circumvent that or compromise. So that's kind of my concern. I get citizen complaints are still pretty darn prevalent. I know folks are trying, but I don't know, maybe everybody's not trying. And we just hear the bad deals. We don't hear about all the good deals, like that letter the citizen wrote in the other day. We usually just hear the complaints. So I think we can always do better, and I hope we'll strive to do better. One quick note, I did see the information submitted by that Beaver Creek folks that are interested in that thing. Quite interesting. It looks like they're trying to get the message out about the assets they might bring to the community look pretty good. I know we've got a long way to go on that. Anyway, I don't want to take up all the time, but those are just some of the issues, I guess, that I'd like to see us do better on. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. I'll raise one issue that just, I guess I kind of want to hear the county manager's perspective on next step. And I see he's furiously writing, so I'll give him a second to catch up. When we were studying our traffic impact fees, it came up that we didn't really have a really clear, direct policy with respect to how our new ADU policy intersects with that. And that troubled me. I can imagine different approaches, and I'm not here to advocate for one versus the other, but I am here to advocate for that we have an approach, and that we, that be considered, and it not be at the whim of the person at the counter, which is kind of the impression I was left with. So I'm just wondering, that's a problem I think needs to be addressed. Like, I don't want to see that on a 2-year docket cycle. Like, we need to address that. And I'm wondering how, from a procedural standpoint, would we tackle that to make sure that's not lingering? I brought this up at Rochester Grand Mound Chamber yesterday. We got into ADUs, and I brought up that issue. And when I mentioned this, they were, I almost got a standing ovation, frankly, from saying that, that was not a good approach, and that we needed to set a consistent policy so that there's consistency and predictability. And there was a lot of enthusiasm for that in that group, and that just kind of got me wanting to make sure I didn't let the ball drop, because that wasn't really the point of that briefing, but it was just something that popped up that I had never thought of.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Menser, I couldn't really hear the beginning part of what you said.
Yeah, so the idea that we have a new ADU policy that allows ADUs in more circumstances, but we never and then we have traffic impact fees for new development. But I don't think we ever connected the dots of, is there an impact fee assessed when somebody wants to build, for example, in a detached ADU?
Okay.
Would there be an additional impact fee, or half of an impact fee, or no impact fee? And what it came up with in that, when somebody asked the question, I can't remember who it was that, it wasn't really being consistently, there was no consistent policy. And it seems like just something we forgot to address, kind of, not forgot, but it's just a loose end, I think.
Yeah, and you're absolutely on point, Commissioner. So I believe the follow-up briefing of the traffic impact fees is scheduled for April 24th. And one of the key elements is specifically the ADUs. I really don't, I totally agree with you. Having a determination whether an ADU is or isn't a part of the traffic impact fee should not be put in what I call the shoulders of the counter staff. That creates a huge inconsistency. So the approach to this is going to give the board the opportunity to really weigh in how you like to implement traffic impact fees. There's 2 elements, right? Whether you like to move forward as a traffic impact fees, the board needs to do something on that. And within that context, then you will have the opportunity to exercise the legislative authority to either exempt ADUs from traffic impact fees, or maybe half, or maybe whole. So that conversation is still yet to come.
I can almost guarantee that one of the commissioners, and it might be me, might be Commissioner Edwards, will ask what other jurisdictions, especially our local, Lacey just changed their policies on ADUs, and our neighboring counties. I'd be very curious how those are handled, because the full impact fee clearly doesn't really seem appropriate, but I'm sure there's a variety of approaches.
Yeah, we'll make sure that I touch base with the staff just to make sure they bring some benchmarking from other jurisdictions.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Menser, may I ask what other issues were brought up at that meeting?
What meeting?
At the Rochester.
Oh, yeah. Yes. One of our presentations got, somebody was ill. So I gave kind of a longer report on county issues. I talked about the broadband interest that we have in the money that we kind of set aside. I talked about vaccines. I talked about the roundabout issue, the Sergeant Road and Highway 12 roundabout and Chehalis Tribe partnership, and that was well received. And then I took question and answer. And then there was a presentation from several members of about real estate. We had a kind of a background of the real estate market in Rochester. We had a perspective on interest rates, and it was just kind of an overview of kind of what's the market doing right now with respect to COVID-19. And, it was just kind of background information essentially about real estate issues. From the rental perspective, and that's where we got into ADUs, because we had somebody who's a realtor that does mainly rentals. A couple issues she brought up for me and for the county to look at one was our process about a mobile, like if you have a mobile home park, for example, so it's like already approved, to have mobile homes there. Getting a mobile home like approved to be sited was taking longer than she thought it was needed. So I'm going to kind of poke into what our process is on that to see if there's any way to help streamline that. Obviously, the ADUs, they were very supportive of our expansion of ADUs, or the speaker was, but they were curious about kind of how long will the process take and what fees will be associated with it. So we're going to I was going to circle back and give them some answers to questions that were asked. And then I talked about the impact fee issue, how that was kind of an unsettled. That's where I brought up that, because I'm like, yeah, your question isn't even 100%. There isn't even a 100% answer yet, because we realized in an impact fee discussion that there was this hole. So we need to plug that hole, and they were very excited about getting that squared away so that there was clarity. And then, that was basically it.
Thank you.
Let's see. So where are we?
I have another.
Yeah, okay. Me too.
Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Mejia.
So I got this question and I wanted to ask it in regards to the HCP. And, if the HCP is approved by U.S. and Fish and Wildlife, is the county basically ready to go and ready to implement it and get the ball rolling? Or is it gonna, just the implementation, it's going to take longer? Like, how are we ready to go on that? Or what are gonna be the next steps if it is approved by U.S. Fish and Wildlife? Knock on wood.
Maybe I can answer that, Commissioner.
Yes.
Yes, please, Ramon.
So, yeah, knock on wood, hopefully we can get our HCP approved this year. So in a parallel process, staff is already looking for property to purchase. And I believe you've given direction to start purchasing one of the properties here 2 weeks ago. And the intent of that is start purchasing property that can serve as a credit mechanism. So when the HCP is done and completed, then it will no longer be a need to have the reviews and everything else, because that will give a permit for us to start doing the mitigation in those properties that we have already acquired. So it's a parallel process. We hope that we can get to the point of when the HCP is approved, we have enough property that we can start issuing credits for the developments that will occur within the pocket gopher mitigation areas. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Edwards.
Yes, sir. That's interesting that Commissioner Mejia brought up. That I was going to ask that same question about HCPs, but maybe to expand on that. Some time back, Josh came to us, I believe it was, and told us that the Interior Secretary, or had put a hold, the president had put a hold maybe on issuing new HCPs because they were going to do a review. And I've been asked by citizens, kind of where are we at on that? Have we heard any more? And any chance, Romero, that I could get maybe an article that was printed or something, so it's just not me saying, well, they said they were going to hold that up, because I know there was some articles about it at some point in time. And so if somebody felt a need, I think we even wrote a letter asking for, explaining where we were at in the process, and we're hoping that we didn't get held up, much longer. So could I get a copy of that letter and maybe that news article that Josh referred to, so that I could give that to a citizen that's been bugging me about how come we don't have that HCP fixed? We've only been working on it since 14, So I don't know if anybody has heard any more about that bit of a delay that was a roadblock or something that was thrown out. Did they say, oh, okay, now it's been 90 days and yeah, I guess everything was okay and we're moving forward? Any news on that?
So what I recall, it was a 90 days stop and receiving new applications. And that's what probably my recollection is, but I didn't hear that perhaps our HCP is on hold. I think it's moving forward. So I will work with Josh to provide you on the status of that. So, and just to clarify, Commissioner, you're looking for a letter the board signed related to the HCP, the latest letter?
I think we sent something in asking that we not be lumped into the new applicants or something like that.
So is that the letter that you're looking for?
I think so, that one, but also the reference material as to why we sent it. I mean, we were briefed that there was going to be some hold, and I just want to clarify that with the citizen, that's all.
Okay, I'll look into it. Yeah.
Okay. Are we anywhere farther along on possibly reducing fees or reducing the time delay that I am still hearing about from master builders folks, I think but a lot of the individuals that come in think that it's pretty high. I know we talked about the possibility of a review at some point. Anything new on that?
So nothing new on the reduced fees, because the board has not taken any action in reducing any fees.
No, I know, but didn't we talk about studying? We're going to review them and see if it's possible.
The process moving forward, we're going to be, you will see a request for proposals here shortly to secure the service as a consultant to help us on review all the fees that include CPED, Public Works, and Public Health. And also you will see a briefing coming up. They will give an overall overview as to the current fees, where we are, and how it's been applied. So those are the two items that I can offer related to your question.
Okay, then maybe just one more quick one for my seatmates. They probably aren't as familiar with it, but I've been asking about that impervious soil, the 10% business that's been getting in the way of a lot of folks' projects. And I think one of the big things is like the driveway and some different things like that. Any movement there so people will be able to get away from, or get back kind of sometime back. So anything new on that?
So the impervious surface, as you have stated in the past, is just a component of the overall low impact development.
Yes.
So the low impact development is in the works as part of the docket for staff, and we provided you with an update on that maybe 2 months ago. If you like another update on that, we certainly can accommodate another update related to the low impact development, which the impervious surfaces, as you stated, is part of that.
Yeah. Okay. Just if, again, I get constituent questions about trying to create affordable housing, adequate housing, I don't want to sound like a broken record with you folks, but I get questions on it, and I'd like to know some things about the impervious. I think that's the main part of that I wanted to hear about, because that seems to be the biggest holdup I'm hearing about from folks.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question on the fee study we're going to be doing. Is it only for public works and public health, or is it going to include CPED as well?
The three.
Okay.
CPED, Public Works. and
Okay, thank you. I just heard two and I was,
No, I'm sorry. If I misspoke, sorry.
thank you.
I guess I didn't hear the answer on that. It's not CPED, did I hear?
Yes, it is.
It
Covers
is.
all.
Sorry, if I misspoke, includes all three departments, CPED, Public Works, and Public Health.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, it's 11:23. If there's anything, I don't have anything further. I propose we adjourn unless commissioners have any last item to cover. Hearing nothing, we are adjourned.
Thank you.